Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the world famous podcast, Beating the Press. Myself, Ty, we've obviously got Kristian with us as well. As always, if football is your thing, if that's what you like to listen to, do that magical thing and subscribe to our channel. We will appreciate it, and you never know, you might even like it. And if you do, please share it with your friends and family. This helps the channel grow. So, moving on to today's episode. Well, it's actually breaking news, isn't it? If we were on Sky Sports Studios, it'd definitely be breaking news. So, Abramovich and Chelsea, it's all happening. It's all kicking off now. So the sanctions are now fully imposed. Chelsea now cannot buy anyone. They can't renew contracts. They've had to close the club merchandise shop. I just heard, I think three of the sponsors have asked to be pulled as well. So I don't know how serious this is, but I heard a tweet. Someone was saying you've got to run down to Sports Direct and pick up 20 blue shirts. I don't know. It's just all going mad. So we've not spoke about this at all. So let's just get on the podcast and we'll crack on with this. So Chris, your initial thoughts, views, what's going on?
Yeah, it's crazy, like proper unprecedented. This is the first of its kind in football. I think in probably any type of sport, especially in a major constitution like a Chelsea is. But I have a feeling that it's not going to be the last. I have a feeling this is going to be the first. It's going to be kind of like a domino effect, especially with the other owners in the Premier League. I think it might even cause a whole review in the sense of, the fit and proper owners in the Premier League. But yeah, absolutely crazy. I kind of feel for Chelsea supporters at the moment, no matter how they acted in the previous game. I can't remember what game it was where they were cheering for Abramovich, but if it was my club, I'd be terrified the way that this is going at the moment. Obviously, I think they said that they just I think they said suspended. That was the word. Suspended their deal with Chelsea. So probably can get picked back up if somebody else takes over the club. But as far as I'm aware, that deal is worth 40 million a year. Now, obviously, if you take into consideration, they've got a deal with Nike as well. So Nike deal is worth around about 60 million a year. And at the moment that they've refused to comment, it's kind of like a no comment at the moment. But they have been known to pull deals from athletes in the past. Yeah. You think most recently, I'm not going to.
I think it's really interesting. Obviously, when I think it was last year when Abramovich said he's going to pass all authority over to the Chelsea Foundation, and he wanted to sort of cut ties and he put it up for sale. I mean, I know the figure that was bandied about was 3 billion. He must have known this was coming along at some point. You would have thought. I mean, I'm no business expert. But if you want to get rid of something, you might put it up for 3 billion. Do you know what I mean? No. I don't know. Guys, if this is what I'm saying is completely stupid, just let me know in those comments before. I just think surely you go about as low ball as you can. And, people have got you over the barrel. Because
I have a feeling that he was...
You don't know how long this is going to last. You don't know the repercussions of it. Once the war's over, are you going to be like, here you go, guys, no problem, have your money back? How does it work? What happens? What are the implications of it all? We're all going into that uncharted territory. No one knows what's going to happen next or there's no protocol for it. There's no process. You can't go back in history and say, by the way, 1942, 1939, when the world kicked off, this is how much money we had in football and this is how it worked. And we don't know. No one knows at the moment. So it's just all a bit up in the air. And yeah, it's like a Netflix series unfolding in front of our eyes, isn't it?
Where you're just glad it's not your own club. And like you said, there's no precedent for it. And, I do think that Roman Abramovich would have been given some kind of a heads up. And that's the reason why he put the charity in place. I can't remember how many oligarchs would have been sanctioned in total, but Roman Abramovich has been one of the last ones to be sanctioned. And he's probably our most high profile one. So he has been given a bit of leeway. So I think he has had time to put his affairs in order, so to speak, a lot more than the other Russians. So I do think he was expecting perhaps a little bit more grace, to the point where he thought, you know what, I can sell the club. I've got a little bit of time. Or it might have just been some kind of affront, because ideally when you've got a club and you valued at £3 million, you're not going to go out. Yeah. You're not going to go out and you're going to say, I'm ready to take a deal. You're automatically going to bluff someone. You're going to say, I value it at this. I'm not going to rush. And that's exactly what he said in his statement. Now, of course, you said it yourself, that he's kind of over a barrel. It was only a matter of time before he had to sell. Now, what you've got in that scenario is clever businessman. You know, if you're a billionaire, you've got your bits about you. You're not just going to go to Roman Abramovich and say, all right, there's your 3 million, there's your 2 million. You're in trouble. The club could go into any form of administration. It could go to creditors, debtors, or anything like that. You can pick that up, you know, pennies on the dollar, you know. So you're in a very strong position at that point. So obviously today came and they've frozen the assets, and you know, like you say, 3 have already pulled the plug. I thought that was so quick that they'd done that. Nike, if they pull, that's their biggest sponsor. They're in massive trouble. That's 100 million gone. And then you've got Hyundai, I think, is their shirt sleeve sponsor. They're about 10 million. I think in total, they've got around about 200 million pounds worth of sponsors. If you've got 200 million pounds worth of sponsors, that's around about, I'm doing the maths earlier on a calculator, around about 19 players on 200 grand a week. Now, you take that out of the club, who's paying the wages at that point?
I think they've allowed him to pay, they've allowed the club to pay the players' wages. Obviously, they need to get paid. So the money's there. It's just the stuff, you can't make any profit. I think that's effectively what
how long is it there for? How long is the money there for?
That's I mean, that's a different question. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how is it till the end of the season? Is it until you find a buyer? But you can't buy anyone out of the club sanction. There was talk of them going into administration. Now that's a real possibility. If they go into administration, it's like, hello, Derby County. Do you know what I mean? And every club that's been in administration before, they're going to want the exact same punishments. And, you know, I think we've got to be very careful. And I get Chelsea are everyone's favourite club in the land. Obviously, Abramovich came in the early 2000s and he just sort of shook up the league and everything, what he's done. I do think he is a good owner. And I think his intentions were right, because he has, stuff's been going on around. I mean, obviously, we're looking at it very much through the Ukraine-Russia, you know, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, that through that lens at the moment. But the issue around it is, Abramovich actually, I mean, this has come from Ukrainian high-profile politicians. Abramovich tried to sort of get some sort of peace talks going, and he said, you know, what little influence he had. He didn't have a huge amount of influence, but he had some sort of influence. Try to get it. Won't gonna, you know, Putin's not having any of it. So he has tried to go over and above, and he also tried to think of the longevity within Chelsea, how long he's been there. You could have easily left sort of, you know, 10 years ago. They've not always been successful. They've had seasons where they've, you know, dipped in and out and they've not won the league for a few years. So you could have quite easily have pulled the plug and said, see you guys, I'm off. You know, I think he genuinely does love the club. So this will hurt. I mean, financially, you know, he's obviously he's very, very wealthy. I don't think, even if he loses this 2 billion or whatever, how much the club owes him, he's still going to be fine. But I think it's the club that's in a load of shit at the moment, in the nicest possible way. But it's just going to be really interesting to see how it unfolds. And the other thing as well is, I mean, fans have got to appreciate that this can quite easily happen to their club. You have no control over what happens, and it just shows that the whole owner's test, the fit and proper owner's test needs I mean, it's just, I mean, the fact that the PIF have taken over Newcastle and then this comes that 6 months later. I mean, there was huge uproar within that sports washing. This is sports washing. It's just everywhere. Unfortunately, the Premier League just is so money hungry, and you know what I mean. All these rules and regulations that they have in place, it's like, oh, I don't know. I think it just brings home Gary Neville's point about having an independent regulator and the need for it. I think every time this stuff like this happens, it just pushes that right up the agenda to say he is actually right. He might be a bit of a dick, but he's right. He's got a point.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to that point that you raised there, and I'm going to specifically ask you how you think that it's going to affect other owners of other clubs and their thought process going ahead. But if you'd have asked Chelsea supporters around about a month ago, you know, Boris Johnson's in charge of your club, effectively, Priti Patel are in charge of your club, it'd be crazy, wouldn't it? Like, you know, at the moment, they are in the hands of the UK government. No longer can Roman Abramovich, you know, because originally when his statement came out, it was all that he was going to get the best deal for the club, the best buy for the club. And I truly believe that, like you said, I do believe that he loves the club. He has an affinity with his club. Obviously, you don't. I say obviously, as an owner, as a Russian lad, you don't grow up loving Chelsea or anything like that. But you come into the club and you get an affinity with it. He's got an affinity with the people, and the fans love him. He's brought him 19 trophies in, I think, 19 or 20 years, so a trophy on average every year. So he's brought massive success, unprecedented success. So in that sense, he is, like you said, almost the perfect owner. However, now it's come to the point where the UK government are going to allocate the potential buyer of the club. Now, I'm interested to see how that decision is made, because, you know, potentially there's potential for corruption there. Anyone who's going to buy Chelsea is going to get a bit of a deal at this point. And of the parties that have been interested, there hasn't been like a front runner. There's been like a few here and there. And obviously, you know, the dreaded word that when Liverpool were getting bought was consortium. I hated that word, because to me, that meant that it was going to be obviously owned by a number of different rich people at the same time, who effectively had different agendas. You know, some could have a love for the club, some could have, you know, more money in their mind. And if they do get a consortium involved, you know, you've got so many different types of decisions on how much you're going to spend, budget, you know, whereas Roman Abramovich was just willing to put his money into the club, like you say, for the love of the club. So I'd just be interested to see how that goes ahead. Is it, you know, what type of owner can afford this? You know, there's obviously going to be a select few people in the world that can afford it. You know, you're going to need to be multi-billionaire straight away. That's going to diminish the pool of people that are going to be able to do it. And, you know, my question to you is, can you see the level of success continuing? And I think, just to preface that, I think it would have been ridiculously hard for Chelsea to win 19 trophies again in the next 19 years. You know, you're considering you've got Newcastle, Man City, Liverpool, you know, a lot more competition on the up. But even if they got half of that, I'd say it would be, you know, a good amount of trophies for that time. But with these new owners coming in, potentially a consortium, I can't imagine Arabs. I can't imagine... I think it more likely be like American or a consortium. Can you see Chelsea continuing at this level, growing, shrinking? What's your thoughts, initial thoughts?
I mean, they've got an excellent team squad. There's no doubt about that. You know, it's only at the start of the season when everyone said they were going to win the league. You know,
and the infrastructure as well that he's put in place.
Yeah, exactly. They've got a brilliant academy. They've got so many players out on loan. They've got top players. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, they'll absolutely be there. It's obviously the injection of cash once he leaves and he's moved on. Then it's what's going to happen after that. I mean, it's interesting as well. Just going back to the point about Abramovich and what's going to happen. So the government are looking to put rules in place, special conditions in place to allow for the sale of the club, but any profit Abramovich doesn't get. And Abramovich has already said if he gets a profit, it'll just be for victims of the war. Now, which victims of the war, which side, Russia, Ukraine? Do you know what I mean? Again, that's like he's left that quite open. I'd imagine it's a Ukrainian war, but again, you don't know. And how's that going to be looked after? To be fair, he said all the right things and everything. But just going back to your previous, your original question, yes, I mean Chelsea are. Ultimately, how good you are as a team comes down to your players and your squad. And at the moment, they've got a brilliant squad. The players are under contract. They obviously can't buy or sell anyone at the moment until this is done. Whoever takes over will be taking over with the intention of keeping them at the top. So they're not going to be thinking of asset stripping them and selling all the players and, you know, get them in a championship and then fuck off. So I don't think that will happen. And again, I'd imagine I think the culture secretary said as well that, you know, the football clubs are community assets. So it's important that they look after it and they don't just, you know, let a foreign owner come and just absolutely rinse it and then do one. So I think they'll be okay, but because it's just unprecedented circumstances and time, we've never seen it before. Everyone's sort of second guessing, and we don't really know what's going to happen until it happens. So I mean, it's kind of exciting, but not for Chelsea fans.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a quick resolution. I'm kind of hoping for Mike Ashley to pull something out of the bag. Sports Direct. Forget about it, Hyundai. Forget about it. 3. We got Sports Direct. Don't worry about it.
They'll be like, Kit Manor will be at Sports Direct. He'll be like, sorry guys, this is on the house. I got you.
But it you know, like you say there, it's so crazy, and I am interested to see how I think it will resolve itself pretty fast. I think there will be a relatively fast buyer. I honestly can't see them. You know, like I think they're going to be set up for the next few years, but after that, that's when it's going to hit. Immediate concerns are obviously Azpilicueta. I think he has an option for an extra year, or the club have an option for an extra year. And I think any existing contracts that are actually in place within the club, they can be fulfilled as long as it doesn't put money into Roman Abramovich's pockets. So Azpilicueta, they could, I might be paraphrasing, they could probably ask him to stay on for another year. Rudiger's, obviously, he can go wherever he wants now, and I think there's another one there. But it'll be interesting to see, you know, like, let's say this rumbles on for the summer or anything like that. You know, players potentially thinking about coming to Chelsea with, you know, new ownership, you know, not what they know of Chelsea. So it's going to be a lot of it up in the air. But what I was going to say to you was, how do you think other clubs will see this going forward? So, you know, like likes of Newcastle, Man City, you know, you've obviously got the human rights issues and all that. They obviously will be looking at this thinking, wow, the amount of sanctions that were put on Russia. Now, this could potentially happen to us. I know, you know, there's similar things going on in the world at the moment that don't get the high profile, don't get as much profile, which is completely ridiculous. But the spotlight might eventually shine upon them. Do you think this will have any impact on their thought process and potentially looking to bail?
I think it's a really fair question, and what it has done, it certainly put a spotlight on refugees, our process to allow refugees in, how much we seem to value a European refugee higher than, say, an African or an Asian refugee. And the fact that's why it's been highlighted so much, because this has happened in Ukraine. You obviously got the Saudi Arabians who are Saudi Arabia is essentially Russia, and they're invading Yemen, which are next to Ukraine, and they're bombing them. So there's a huge human rights issue going on there. There's obviously, you know, Qataris there as well. I think it'll get people thinking. It'll certainly get people more than thinking. I think it'll get some people worried. And like I said, we don't know how people look at it and are thinking moving forward. But I will imagine that these guys, when there's a lot of money invested somewhere, you always take those extra precautions, especially when something like this happens. So I think you've got, you know, they'll be in touch with their lawyers, and they'll be getting all the stuff right. You know what I mean, making sure we're covered and we can
contingency plans. Yeah.
If
this ever happens to us.
No, absolutely. I mean, Newcastle obviously haven't got billions in, and again, I mean, Newcastle's the richest club in the world. It's not going to make a huge difference to them, the 300 million. You know, I think they went through all the fit and proper test of what they did. I think they can slightly get away with it because it's not a direct Saudi Arabian in charge. It's PIF, isn't it? It's like a consortium. It's like a grey area. So I think lawyers might be able to get themselves away from it. Again, the Man City, you know, that's Sheikh Mansour. That's a person. You know, he'd be the owner. So again, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what's moving forward. And I do think there will be some worried owners, especially. I think what they've realised is because they just thought the government will just let them be. The fact is, the first time I've known the government get involved directly in football to impact a club, and that's a huge decision. And they're thinking, right, okay, we sort of batted Premier League away. You can't back the government away, unfortunately. When they say they're going to do it, it's just the way it is, regardless of what we think of them. So moving forward, I think there will be some worried owners, and I mean, I'm just glad we've got FSG who don't spend out, but at least they're in. You know, it's just that's we've got money.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
At the moment.
Yeah, a lot of the times, obviously, you know, it's kind of the better the devil, you know. You know, a lot of Liverpool fans, including ourselves, are not exactly FSG in, but you know, there are worse owners out there, and I think if Chelsea managed to get a owners such as FSG, who again they get things wrong, but they tend to kind of, I don't want to say put them right. They know when they're wrong. They accept when they're wrong, and they generally hold their hands up. And they've not been the worst owners, and they know how to run a football club in the sense that they know how to put the right people in the right positions. You know, the worst case scenario is obviously you get a glazer, you know, someone that's just going to skim off the top of the club. But you know, Chelsea don't own their own stadium. It's going to be very difficult to find an owner that's going to essentially dip in their own pockets to kind of fund certain aspects of the club unless they manage to generate other forms of income elsewhere, because essentially that's what they're going to have to do if they don't own their own stadium. You know, it's another asset, and it's probably the main asset attributed to the club that they won't essentially have. But I'm looking at the, I'm just interested to see your thoughts on the restrictions that they're going to face over the next few weeks coming to the end of the season. The main one that I see is their expenditure for match days. So they've been allocated, I think, 20 grand per game. Can you see like Chelsea rocking up on a megabus, going to the likes of Middlesbrough and all them kind of stuff? You know what I mean? So it's going to be difficult, especially I think they've already paid for the Lille second leg. I think that their expenses are already done that. You've got essentially 50 odd people that are going to be going, like, you know, including the backroom staff and everything like that, sometimes private. They've got Champions League draw coming up very soon. You know, they're going to get through against Lille. If they don't get one of the English clubs, how are you going to get 20 grand for that amount of players?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about that. So yeah, you just told me something. I knew one of the other sanctions that only season ticket holders were allowed to go watch the games. You can't sell any more tickets. So whoever they've got, they're the only ones they've got. Obviously, it brings a second question. I don't know what I've read. If away fans could go to the ground as well.
No, they can't.
So Chelsea fans can't go. I suppose they can go to away games, can't they? Because
yes, Chelsea fan can go away.
You can go to the away games. Yeah. So the 20. I mean, you'd think 20 grand is enough for a club flying to Europe. I think it's quite.
No.
How much are tickets going to cost? I mean, I don't know.
Because it's not all. It's not inclusive. Yeah, it's not inclusive of the hotels and everything like that. So like, you know, you think 20 grand on hotels, usually the 5 private jets, straight away that blows. That 20 grand is just gone on the flight alone. You know, so it's a case of getting on.
I'm thinking if you give me 50 guys, I can get 50 guys over to whether it is Ryanair. I mean, I don't know. Might be.
Yeah.
What they'll probably be looking at. I mean, I'm sure they'll get some sort of donations from someone else. I mean, it's not. I mean, I'm saying they'll get donated. I don't know. I mean, it's just my 20 grand into it. Yeah.
I think there might be some kind of. I think there might be the government may afford them certain. I don't know, let them off a little bit on let's say foreign travel. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes, because, like, you know, you can imagine the likes of Havertz and that on an easy jet flight with the rest of them.
Surely, I'm just thinking these players. Surely they'll just be like, right, I'll just pay for it.
Yeah, I'll go myself.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Say, right, guys, you have to do this just because the club's in this. So can you do it? I mean, if you're on $500,000 or 300 grand a week, and you've got to pay 10 grand, I mean, surely you're going to do it. I mean, I just think it's quite. And you find, you know, the club's struggling. You can decide what you want to do when the sanctions are lifted, and you can go or whatever. But that's bonkers. That's bonkers. That
Dennis Bergkamp, you know what I mean? All across Europe. But you lastly, you raised the point on the fans. So obviously, only the season ticket holders can go. No Chelsea fans can go if you don't have the season ticket. Away fans can't go, which is obviously an advantage to Chelsea in a way. Yes. You know, you're still going to have 20 to 30,000 fans. No away fans, which is a bit crap, I think. If they go to if they go to Wembley semi-final of the FA Cup, they can take their own fans. However, any kind of contributions towards Chelsea won't be made. God knows where that goes. Hopefully it goes to like a charity, a Ukrainian charity or something along those lines. But yeah, it's so far up in the air, and I'm just glad it's not us. Last question I'll leave you with is... obviously, with everything that's gone on, do you think that Roman Abramovich was good for the Premier League?
Absolutely. thinking with just with my football head and football hat on, he created a club, which I would say is the first time we had I know Man United won the Champions League in '99, but I felt when Chelsea and Mourinho came over, he brought Mourinho into this country. I thought Chelsea were like a machine. It's the first time I'd seen a club that was a machine. They went to Europe, and they looked like they could win it. Do you know what I mean? With Man United, it was always like I think they went so long without getting. We're talking late '90s here. They'd never get past the quarters. Do you know what I mean? They'll get there again. With Chelsea, it just felt they're going to go. And I remember when they obviously got to beat Arsenal, didn't they? I think Wayne Bridge scored at Highbury when it used to be Highbury, and that was, I think, semis. So he just bought that new winning mentality culture. He changed the whole culture. He improved the academy setup. He just improved everything. Do you know what I mean? Around Chelsea as well. He invested money in it like there was no tomorrow, and he got a lot of clubs up in arms because they were like, we've got a new team in town here. Do you know what I mean? We've got to be careful. And he ruffled a lot of feathers. So I think he was good. Just as he was a great owner in terms of coming in and changing the Premier League. Sheikh Mansour was another one, great owner, bringing it in, changing it up. And I think if you look back in history, I think they're the two owners that really changed it. We can talk about managers. I think Jurgen Klopp's he's just changed it to a different level, just with what he's done in terms of the club and not getting that investment. But Chelsea and Man City both have had a huge investment from two owners that are really, really invested in the clubs and not just the first team. So Man City have done huge amounts in the community as well. So the same with Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? So he has. I mean, I don't know if I'd imagine not. I don't think he'd love Chelsea when he bought them, but I think he's grown to love them now, and I think he's really, really attached to them. And again, I think Man City going down the similar route. He's been in charge for nearly 10 years, or might have been over 10 years. But yeah, just going back, I think he's been a really good owner, and I think that's a really good question of the day as well. That. So yeah, we'll just wrap it up there, but I'll just give everyone an opportunity to sort of put down the comments. So normally after every episode, we'll come to the end. We'll have a question of the day. So today, obviously, it's Abramovich, and I think it's a really fair question. That we'll have some differing views, which is absolutely fine. So a really simple question of the day: has Abramovich been good for the Premier League? Put your comments down below, and anyone who has put a comment, we do respond, and we will get back to you.